Wow, this night it was probably one of the most massive Ukrainian strikes on Russian military and oil facilities, especially in Krasnodarsky Krai. For example, here's a Yeysk military airfield. And as you can see, something is really interesting happening out there. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. We have numerous of the videos coming for this hour, mostly it's published by the Russian opposition Astra source. They received the data from the eyewitnesses. Alright, the person who is filming the video says that the oil refinery facility was targeted and burning. He is really surprised to hear the Ukrainian drones in the skies. By the way, yesterday one more Russian oil facility was hit in Tambov Oblast. So every day Ukraine launches the drones to strike Russian infrastructure, and as you can see, those strikes are usually successful. And here's the satellite image of the Tambov oil storage. As you may see, it was definitely hit and burning. This is one more Russian oil refinery in Adygea Republic, Russian Federation.
Немский мост, вот она хуйня это горит, только что прям недавно бахнуло.
The thing is burning, it was hit recently. And the Russian crude oil depot in Azov city is burning for the third day consecutive. It's crazy, they cannot eliminate the fire. Russia is losing a record number of oil refineries and oil storages. Obviously, it's not good for their logistics, for internal market, for export and for their military. We see that recently Ukraine gradually intensified those strikes. But from the military perspective, the most interesting thing that was struck recently is the Yeysk Airfield. It is located at the Azov Sea, but on the Russian side. Yes, it is the Russian territory. If we go into the place, you'll see this runway, and Russia uses this airfield to strike Ukraine. Basically, it's their base for attack helicopters and Sukhoi 34 fighters bombers. Also Sukhoi 25 attack airplanes. And we have the confirmation from locals that definitely something was burning out there, so I'm waiting for the satellite images as usual. Russians also have the air defense systems in this particular area. By the way, the Russian commander of Yeysk Air Defense is now under the trial because he is accused to shut down the Russian A-50 AVAX airplane. If we go to the apron, you might see some of the Russian surveillance airplanes and jets like Ilyushin-62, which are not flying any longer, some of the transport airplanes, but those images are quite old. Russia sent more of the airplanes to this place. By the way, Yeysk was attacked around 2 months ago. By that time, Russia lost the B-200 amphibious surveillance airplane. My friends, if you like the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may also consider supporting me on Patreon page. You may find it with my personal link in the video description just below. Thank you so much for your awesome motivation and your kind support. About the front lines update, well, Russia wasn't able to get more ground during the last 24 hours. However, Ukraine got some of the control over some of the quarters in Volchan city, so the counterattack from Ukrainian side is successful. For the last 24 hours, Ukraine moved here and over here. Plus, yesterday, the village of Tychy was fully liberated by Ukrainian army. Well, at least for today, there are great news from the front lines. Nevertheless, Russia pushes in many of the sides, especially on the eastern part. But if we speak about the Kharkiv region, the Russian assault operation totally failed out there. Even Putin today admitted its army failure to attack Kharkiv city. He said that Kharkiv is not a goal for the Russian army, as well as Kharkiv Oblast. So what are they doing over here? I think that they basically die for nothing. And the awesome news about the Kharkiv region has been confirmed by one more source, so definitely Tychy liberated and Ukraine went on a counterattack. Fantastic, awesome news. Also, Ukraine was successful in the other part, Staritsa. It's also the Kharkiv region. This situation means that the number of the forces which Russia used to attack Kharkiv Oblast is not enough, or was not enough. It also means that they struggled too with their manpower and with their military in general. Because of it, I'm quite surprised about Putin's demand to take more ground in Ukraine. Yeah, he still wants to obtain everything which he put in his Russian constitution. At the same time, his army is running away, for example, in Kharkiv region. Alright, some of the great news are coming about the Ukrainian Air Defense support. First of all, the United States of America say that the priority for them is Ukraine. So other customers for Patriot systems, Patriot missiles, should expect some of the delays for their units. Ukraine is now a national security interest of the United States, so they do everything to protect Ukrainian skies. Well, actually we see that there is some sort of the movement in increasing Ukrainian military support recently, which keeps me and probably you guys quite optimistic. Also, the great news are coming from Romania. They will send one more Patriot system to Ukraine. So totally Ukraine will obtain 3 more air defense systems. Romania, United States and Germany agreed to reinforce the Ukrainian air defense with more Patriots. It could be a game changer to protect Ukrainian infrastructure as well as the military airfields. It's crucial for F-16s. But at the same time, Ukraine still hasn't got the permission to use ATACMS missiles to strike the Russian military bases on the Russian territories. So for this time, Ukraine might use standard GMLRS missiles with a shorter range, and those are less powerful compared to ATACMS, obviously. Plus, Ukraine might use Patriot systems in the Russian airspace, and also our European partners agreed for Ukraine to use the cruise missiles like Storm Shadow and Scalp. Well, I'm sure that Ukraine finally will obtain the permission to use ATACMS too. Alright, one more crazy and useless Russian attack they started today in one of the directions. Sorry guys, it's hard for me to clarify where exactly it happened, but they used the Hunger tank together with the other one, and all of their attempts were useless because Ukraine uses lots of the FPV drones with artillery shells mounted. As you may say, Russians just go across the fields. Based on my experience reviewing all of those mid-waves, I may say that Russia is still in lack of the robust electronic warfare or the drone jammers. They try to come out with new ideas and solutions to stop Ukrainian FPVs, but so far it doesn't work for them, and it's good. But Russians have the weaponry which Ukraine doesn't have. We're speaking about the powerful gliding bombs. Yes, Ukraine has the American-made JDAMs, but those are just tiny compared to what Russia is using, and now they start to use FAB 3000, so the bomb itself weighs is 3 tons. It's crazy. Before, the biggest one they used was 1,500 kilos, and here 2 times more. That bomb doesn't need to be very precise to hit something, because the area it might cover is very big. So the first video of that bomb in active action was shared by Russians. But still, I think that F-16s might go with that threat coming from the Russian side. First of all, they will target the Russian Sukhoi 34 fighters bombers, because the radar systems and the rocket range would allow those airplanes to operate against the Russian fighter jets. The most important thing is to protect those airplanes on the ground, and for that Ukraine is obtaining new air defense systems. The Guardian also says that F-16s might stop the threat from the Russian gliding bombs. The France 24 came out with a report about the Ukrainian pilot training in France. As you can see, they fly on some sort of the training airplane, and later on our newcomers, so those are very young new pilots, will go for the training on F-16, but not in France. They'll continue the training probably in Denmark or even in Romania. At least for now it's the plan. Well, maybe everything might change and they'll fly the other airplanes like Mirage 2000 in France, because the president of France, Macron, already announced the delivery of those airplanes to Ukraine. Well, it is great that our pilots are doing this training. The American military production company Northrop Grumman will start to produce munitions and spare parts for Ukraine. Mostly they speak about tank and artillery shells. The company has already obtained the order from the United States to produce that kind of the weaponry. After the North Korea, Putin is visiting Vietnam. There were some of the statements from the Russian dictator, and yes, we need to listen to that as well, because he defines the Russian policy against Ukraine too, unfortunately. Putin forecasts that Zelensky could be removed from power in the first half of 2025. Well, as for me, I don't see how it could be done other than the physical removal, so maybe it's the threat from Putin's side. Putin openly lied that Russia didn't ask any sort of the help from North Korea in the war against Ukraine, but there were tons of the evidence filmed by the Russian soldiers themselves of how they're using the North Korean shells, and sometimes they even complain about the quality of those shells. Plus, the North Korean ballistic missiles were delivered to Russia and were used against Ukraine. Ukraine found many of those debris on its territory, especially in the Kharkiv region. Putin also threatened the South Korea, because South Korea announced that their policy in supplying weaponry to Ukraine might change because of the new military union between North Korea and Russia. So the South Korea is now very interested into supplying their weaponry to Ukraine. But Putin says that if South Korea supplies weapons to Ukraine, it will not like the answer. I hope they will not do this. Yeah, hope, Putin, hope. South Korea will do it. Alright, now Putin knows what to put on his grave. Kim Jong-un presented him this portrait. A dictator and murderer is buried here, should be written below. And we see that definitely Putin is not willing to turn back. He is willing to achieve his goals in Ukraine no matter what cost. He also stated today during his visit in Hanoi, Vietnam, that if West blames Russia that hard, Russia should obviously go till the end. Well, maybe it's going to be the end for Russia in this case. At the same time, we understand that it's impossible to win against Russia, as for example, the victory was achieved against the Nazi Germany. Ukraine, West and allies just cannot go to Moscow taking it under control, because Russia has nukes, so the time is totally different, and the solution for Russia will be also different. So what is the victory for Ukraine? Yes, the occupation of all of the territories, including Crimea, but Russia will continue to stay Russia and might strike Ukraine once again. It means that the occupation of the territories is not the solution for Ukraine. Actually, it is just the step. There should be a solution behind it too. For example, robust security guarantees, which are only possible within the NATO alliance. All of those temporary security guarantees, which Zelensky signs with many of the countries, including the United States, are not really obligatory. They obligate the sides to negotiate for the possible military support, that's it. No one absolutely must secure Ukraine in that case. So without the NATO guarantees, Ukraine might just waste its army in the occupation attempt to liberate its territories, and later on Russia will gather resources, strike once again. It is basically the endless war, and the Ukraine will stay as a gray zone between European Union and Russia, or the NATO alliance and Russia. Maybe for someone it's even profitable. But there is also a chance for the Russian internal forces to collapse Russia itself, as it nearly happened the last year. Remember the Prigozhin attempted coup. So basically it's the black swan scenario, that we do not expect anything to happen, but something really serious happens that changes the game. And I'm sure that this scenario is more than possible. First of all, because Putin is not immortal, and after he loses the power, there could be some of the internal clashes in Russia. And after all, sanctions little by little start to work. Ukrainian drone strikes on the Russian oil refineries also start to work. The Russian society is no longer watching war just on TV. No, they are in it. Partially just a little, but they're scared. In its turn, it will intensify the internal cracks within the Russian society, and the upcoming mobilization will make the situation even worse for the Russian regime. So overall, Russia doesn't have the other way than to cease its existence in the form we know it. In the coming years, we'll see the huge transformations in Russia, and in its way, it's also the threat for the global stability, because it might lead to the country defragmentation and the possible local conflicts. And as we know, Russia has nukes. In case of the Russian defragmentation, Ukraine will obviously return its territories back without any fight. We see how the Russian society has already been divided by this war. For example, one more Russian soldier who came for vacation from the special military operation was found totally cold in St. Petersburg with the axe stirring in his bag. Within him there was a paper found thanks for the special military operation. So there are some of the Russians who do not really like their soldiers. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.